its power diminishes relative to external rival powers on the rise. When a new rising power gets strong enough to compete with the dominant power that is having domestic breakdowns, external conflicts, most typically wars, take place. Out of these internal and external wars come new winners and losers. Then the winners get together to create the new world order, and the cycle begins again. As I looked back, I saw that these cause and effect relationships drove the cycles of rises and declines all the way back to the Roman Empire. I saw how the stories of each one of these cycles blended together with others before, during, and after, in the same way as each individual story blends with others to make the epic 500-year story that is our collective history. And like human life cycles, no two are exactly the same, but most are similar. They're driven by logical cause and effect relationships that progress through stages from birth to strength and maturity to weakness and inevitably decline. However, that's like saying a person's life cycle takes 80 years on average, without recognizing that many are much shorter and many are longer. While age can be a good indicator of future longevity, a better way is to look at health indicators. One can do that with empires and their vital signs too. I found that by watching the indicators of power change, I was able to see what stage a country was in, which helped me to anticipate what was likely to come next. Now, I'll take you through the big cycle in more detail. Give me 20 minutes and I'll give you the last 500 years of history and show you the similar patterns across the Dutch, British, US, and Chinese empires. 500 years of big cycles. I'm going to describe the typical cycle by dividing it into 3 phases: the rise, the top, and the decline. The rise. Successful new orders that rise, both internal and external, are typically started by powerful revolutionary leaders doing 4 things. First, they win power by gaining more support than the opposition. Second, they consolidate power by converting, weakening, or eliminating the opposition so they don't stand in their way. Third, they establish systems and institutions that make the country work well. And fourth, they pick their successors well, or create systems that do that. Because a great empire requires many great leaders over several generations. At this stage, soon after winning the fight, there is typically a period of peace and growing prosperity because the leadership is clearly dominant and has broad support, so no one wants to fight it. During this phase, leaders within the country have to design an excellent system to raise the country's wealth and power. First and foremost, to be great, they must have strong education, which is not just teaching knowledge and skills, but also strong character, civility, and work ethic. These are typically taught in the family, schools, and religious institutions. That provides a healthy respect for rules and laws, order within society, low corruption, and enables them to unite behind a common purpose and work well together. As they do this, they increasingly shift from producing basic products to innovating and inventing new technologies. For example, the Dutch rose to defeat the Habsburg Empire and become superbly educated. They became so inventive that they came up with 1/4 of all major inventions in the world, the most important of which was the invention of ships that could travel around the world to collect great riches, and the invention of capitalism, as we know it today, to finance those voyages. They, like all leading empires, enhanced their thinking by being open to the best thinking in the world. As a result, the people in the country become more productive and more competitive in world markets, which shows up in their growing economic output and rising share of world trade. You can see this happening now as the US and China are roughly comparable in both their economic outputs and their shares of world trade. As countries trade more globally, they must protect their trade routes and their foreign interests from attack, so they develop great military strength. If done well, this virtuous cycle leads to strong income growth, which can be used to finance investments in education, infrastructure, and research and development. They must also develop systems to incentivize and empower those that have the ability to make or take wealth. In all of these cases, the most successful empires used a capitalist approach to develop productive entrepreneurs. Even China, which is run by the Chinese Communist Party, used a form of this capitalist approach. Deng Xiaoping, when asked about this, said, "It doesn't matter if it's a white cat or a black cat, as long as it catches mice. And it's glorious to be rich." To do this well, they must develop their capital markets. Most importantly, their lending, bond, and stock markets. That allows people to convert their savings into investments to fund invention and development, and share in the successes of those who make great things happen. The Dutch created London when the British were on top. New York is now, and China is quickly developing its financial centers. Most importantly, the capitalists, the governments, and the military must work together. Not only did the Dutch work well together, they were one and the same. The Dutch East India Company was granted a trade monopoly from the government and had its own officially sanctioned military to go out into the global markets to make and take wealth. The British followed with the British East India Company and had a similar coordination of their government, business, and military operations. The U.S. military-industrial complex followed suit, as does the Chinese system today. As the country becomes the largest international trading empire, its transactions can be paid with its currency, making it the preferred global medium of exchange. And because their currency is so widely accepted and frequently used, people around the world want to save in it, making it the preferred storehold of wealth, and thus the world's leading reserve currency. The guilder was the world's main reserve currency when the Dutch led world trade, the pound was when the British led, and the dollar has been since the US led. Naturally, China's currency is increasingly being used as a reserve currency. Having a reserve currency enables the empire to borrow more than other countries. That advantage is huge. Think about it. People all over the world are eager to save and hence lend back their currency to the empire. Countries without a reserve currency don't have that. And when the empire runs out of its own money, remember the United States in 1971? They can always print more. The exorbitant privilege afforded by the empire's reserve currency leads borrowing to increase and the beginning of a financial bubble. This series of cause and effect relationships leading to mutually supportive financial, political, and military powers, bolstered by the borrowing power of a reserve currency, have gone together since history began to be recorded. All the empires that became the most powerful in the world followed this path to the top. While in the top phase, most of these strengths are sustained, embedded within the fruits of their success are the seeds of their decline. As a rule, as people in these rich and powerful countries earn more, that makes them more expensive and less competitive relative to people in other countries who are willing to work for less. At the same time, people in other countries naturally copy the methods and technologies of the leading power, which further reduces the leading power's competitiveness. For example, British shipbuilders had less expensive workers than Dutch shipbuilders. So they hired Dutch designers to design better ships that were built by less expensive British workers, making them more competitive, which led the British to rise and the Dutch to decline. Also, as people become richer, they tend not to work as hard. They enjoy more leisure, pursue the finer and less productive things in life, and at the extreme become decadent. Values change from generation to generation during the rise to the top, from those who had to fight to achieve wealth and power to those who inherited it. They're less battle-hardened, steeped in luxuries, and accustomed to the easy life, which makes them more vulnerable to challenges. The golden era of the Dutch Empire and the Victorian era of the British Empire were such high prosperity periods like this. As people get used to doing well, they increasingly bet on the good times continuing and borrow money to do that, which grows into financial bubbles. Naturally, the financial gains come unevenly, so the wealth gap grows. Wealth gaps are self-reinforcing because rich people use their greater resources to reinforce their powers. For example, they give greater privileges to their children, like better education, and they influence the political system to their advantage. This causes the gaps in values, politics, and opportunities to grow between the rich haves and the poor have-nots. Those who are less well-off feel the system is unfair, so resentments grow. But as long as the living standards of most people are still rising, these gaps and resentments don't boil over into conflict. Having the world's reserve currency inevitably leads to borrowing excessively and contributes to the country building up large debts with foreign lenders. While this boosts spending power over the short term, it weakens the country's financial health and weakens the currency over the long term. In other words, when borrowing and spending are strong, the empire appears very strong, but its finances are in fact being weakened. The borrowing sustains the country's power beyond its fundamentals by financing both domestic overconsumption and international military conflicts required to maintain the empire. Inevitably, the cost of maintaining and defending the empire becomes greater than the revenue it brings in, so having an empire becomes unprofitable. For example, the Dutch Empire overextended around the world and fought war after increasingly expensive war with the British and other European powers to protect its territory and trade routes. The British Empire similarly became massive, bureaucratic, and lost its competitive advantages as rival powers, particularly Germany, soared, leading to an increasingly expensive arms race and World War. The U.S. has spent about $8 trillion on foreign wars and their consequences since September 11, and trillions more for other military operations and for supporting military bases in 70 countries. And it still isn't spending enough to support its military competition with China in the area around China. In this cycle, the richer countries eventually get deeper into debt by borrowing from poorer countries that save more. It's one of the early signs of a wealth and power shift. This started in the United States in the 1980s when it had a per capita income 40 times that of China's and started borrowing from Chinese who wanted to save in dollars because the dollar was the world's reserve currency. Similarly, the British borrowed a lot of money from its much poorer colonies, and the Dutch did the same at their top. If the empire begins to run out of new lenders, those holding their currency begin to look to sell and get out rather than to buy, save, lend, and get in. And the strength of the empire begins to decline. The decline. The decline comes from internal economic weakness together with internal fighting or costly external fighting, or both. Typically, the decline comes gradually and then very suddenly. When debts become very large and there is an economic downturn, and the empire can no longer borrow the money necessary to repay its debts, the financial bubble bursts. This creates great domestic hardships and forces the country to choose between defaulting on its debts or printing a lot of new money. It always chooses to print a lot of new money, at first gradually and eventually massively. That devalues the currency and raises inflation. For the Dutch, this was the financial crisis brought about by financial excesses and paying for the Fourth Anglo-Dutch War. Similarly, for the British, it was paying for its financial excesses and its debts from the two world wars. And for the U.S., it's been 3 cycles of debt finance booms and busts since the 90s, with the central bank stepping in each time with stronger measures. When the government has problems funding itself, when there are bad economic conditions, and living standards for most people are declining, and there are large wealth, values, and political gaps, internal conflict between the rich and the poor, as well as different ethnic, religious, and racial groups, greatly increases. This leads to political extremism that shows up as populism of the left or the right. Those of the left seek to redistribute the wealth, while those of the right seek to maintain the wealth in the hands of the rich. Typically, during such times, taxes on the rich rise, and when the rich fear their wealth and well-being will be taken away, they move to places, assets, and currencies they feel safer in. These outflows reduce the empire's tax revenue, which leads to a classic, self-reinforcing, hollowing out process. When the flight of wealth gets bad enough, governments outlaw it. Those seeking to get out begin to panic. These turbulent conditions undermine productivity, which shrinks the economic pie and causes more conflict about how to divide the shrinking resources. Populist leaders emerge from both sides and pledge to take control and bring about order. That's when democracy is most challenged because it fails to control the anarchy. And it is when the move to a strong populist leader who will bring order to the chaos is most likely. As conflict within the country escalates, it leads to some form of revolution or civil war to redistribute wealth and force the necessary big changes. For example, the Roosevelt Revolution to redistribute wealth was relatively peaceful and maintained the existing internal order, while the French Revolution, the Russian Revolution, and the Chinese Revolution, where much internal conflict makes the empire weak and vulnerable to rising external rivals who, seeing this domestic weakness, are more inclined to mount a challenge. This raises the risk of great international conflict, especially if the rival has built up a comparable military. Defending oneself and one's empire against rivals requires great military spending, which has to occur as domestic economic conditions are deteriorating and the empire can least afford it. Since there is no viable system for peacefully adjudicating international disputes, these conflicts are typically resolved through tests of power. As bolder challenges are made, the leading empire is faced with the difficult choice of fighting or retreating. Fighting and losing is the worst outcome. But retreating is bad too, as it cedes progress to the rival and signals that the empire is weak to those countries that are considering which side to be on. Poor economic conditions cause more fighting for wealth and power, which inevitably leads to some kind of war. Wars are terribly costly. At the same time, they produce the tectonic shifts that realign the new waters to the new realities of wealth and power in the world. When those holding the reserve currency and debt of the declining empire lose faith and sell them, that marks the end of its big cycle. Of the roughly 750 currencies that existed since 1700, less than 20% now exist, and all of them have been devalued. For the Dutch, this happened after their defeat in the Fourth Anglo-Dutch War, when they weren't able to repay the massive debts they built up during it. This led to a run on the Bank of Amsterdam and a desperate sell-off, forcing massive money printing, which devalued the currency and the empire into irrelevance. For the British, this happened after World War II, when despite their victory, they could not repay the massive debts they borrowed to fund their war effort. This led to a series of money printing, devaluations, and sell-offs in the British pound as the US and the dollar emerged dominant and created a new world order. At the time of this recording, the United States hasn't yet reached this point. While it has massive debt, spends more than it earns, and funds this deficit with more borrowing and printing huge amounts of new money, the big sell-off in dollars and dollar debt hasn't yet begun. And while there are great internal and external conflicts occurring for all the classic reasons, they've not yet crossed the line to become wars. Eventually, out of these conflicts, whether they're violent or not, come new winners who get together and restructure the losers' debts and political systems and establish the new world order. Then the old cycle and empire ends and the new one begins, and they do it all over again. That's a lot of detail I just threw at you to paint a picture of how the typical big cycle transpires. Of course, not all of them transpire in exactly this way, but most largely do. So much so that it seems like the stories of rises and declines stay essentially the same, and the only things that change are the clothes the characters wear and the technologies they use. So, where are we heading? Most empires have their time in the sun and inevitably decline. Reversing a decline is difficult because that requires undoing a lot that's already been done, but it's possible. By looking at these indicators, it's pretty easy to see which stage of the big cycle an empire is in, how fit it is, and whether its condition is improving or worsening, which can help one estimate how many years it has left. Still, these estimates aren't precise, and the cycle can be extended if those in charge pay attention to their vital signs and improve them. For example, knowing that a person is 60 years old, how fit they are, whether they smoke or not, and a few other basic vital signs, one can estimate the person's longevity. One can do that with empires and their vital signs too. It won't be precise, but it will be broadly indicative and give clear direction on steps to take to increase longevity. It's most often the case that a nation's greatest war is with itself over whether or not it can make the hard decisions needed to sustain success. As for what we need to do, it comes down to just two things: earn more than we spend and treat each other well. All other things I mentioned, strong education, inventiveness, being competitive, and all the rest, are just ways of getting at these two things. It's easy to measure if we're doing them. So like people who want to get fit, let's get on the program and improve our vitals. Let's do that individually and collectively. My goal for sharing this picture of how the world works and a few principles for dealing with it well is to help you recognize where we are and the challenges we face, and to make the wise decisions needed to navigate these times well. Since there is a lot more to discuss and we are out of time, you can learn more in my book, Principles for Dealing with the Changing World Order, and I look forward to continuing this conversation at economicprinciples.org and on social media. Thank you, and may the force of evolution be with you.
put it to work for you. So that being the case, let's go ahead and get started this evening. I do want to share this, and I always like to open with this quote: the moment that you truly understand the power of residual income, and when I say residual income, family, that's exactly how we get paid. We get paid residually for everything that we do. And passive residual income, to me, is one of the eighth wonders of the world because you get paid forever for doing a job well one time. Now here, whenever you add a new business partner, that's basically creating passive residual income. Every time you secure a new asset for you and your family, you're not only building your family's net worth, you're increasing that passive residual income. And we're going to show you several different ways where you can do that tonight. And we're going to give you the tools to make that possible. Now, family, I do want to share this. First and most important, congratulations to everyone who's ranked up already. There are several of you out there that are hitting phenomenal ranks. So congratulations to each and every one of you. I am definitely not going to call out names, but family, remember, we teach everyone, you run through the tape, not to the tape. And the tape for us is Sunday, July 31st at 5:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So for those of you who are ranked up, congratulations and keep pushing. You may get to that next higher rank because every time you rank up with this incredible opportunity, you also bank up. So congratulations to all of you who have already hit ranks. And for those of you that are just as close as you possibly could be, keep running, run all the way through the end of that tape. Now, everyone that we have spoken to in this particular industry who's reached a position of prominence are leaders. That does not mean, family, that anyone who picks up a book is a leader, but we have learned in this industry, all leaders are readers. And these are 4 incredible books that I strongly encourage each and every one of you get in your library and read these books cover to cover as quick as you possibly can. Each of the books will bless you in so many different ways. And the one that I will definitely share with you is the Dream Chasers Manifesto. It's written by our very own Dr. Ty Betts. He is a global ambassador in this particular business. That's an individual that's doing over $3 million in a 30-day period of time. And that book is truly a dreamer's guide to surviving in a jungle of non-dreamers. It's going to teach you, family, every step of the way, how to follow your dreams, and more importantly, how not to give up. Because the basis of that book is about the dream, the struggle, and the prize. And you get a chance to be inside the mind of a gentleman who's a legend in this particular industry. So I encourage you today, there's several slides that I'm going to encourage you to take a screenshot of. This is one. All of these books are listed for you in our back office at mywbw.net. I'm going to share that with you in just a moment. But there's a list of roughly about 27 different books. These are the 4 that I truly love. So I encourage you, take a screenshot of this, and you want to add these books to your library as soon as possible. And this is another document that you truly want to take a screen share of. When you take a screenshot of this, family, all I can tell you is if you can follow directions, this one document here will make you a small fortune. See, the secret to this document is right there in plain sight. It's all about plugging in and staying connected. What we're doing is we're all following the exact same system. The system was created by Dr. Ty Betts. I spoke to you about him earlier. And what we have learned is this is a business that you truly build your business from event to event. Now, when we say event to event, there's a calendar of events over to your right. We have something going on 7 days a week, over 3 hours of live content, 7 days a week. Now, this is a tools training. So I'm going to slow it down and I'm going to explain the power of this one tool. For instance, Sunday nights. Sunday is all about training. The entire day for Sunday is set up to train. But here's what I want you to focus on. Sunday nights on the Gold Rocks platform. All of the training that I'm going to speak to you about tonight takes place on this goldrocks.info platform. Sunday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, they have what's known as a fast track training. You do not want to miss that training. It is phenomenal. There will always be 1 or 2 of our incredible leaders that will team up and give you everything that they have to help you get your business off to a fast start. And then every Monday through Saturday at 10:45 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have what's known as the power call. Now, the power call is where you get motivation, inspiration, and everyday and education. We have some of the most phenomenal moderators and presenters that are basically hosting those power calls. For those of you who may not have attended a power call, you're doing yourself and your business a disservice. Every Monday through Saturday at 10:45 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, you definitely want to plug into the power call. And right after that power call, we have live presentations, two of them. Two live presentations Monday through Saturday. The first starts at 12 noon p.m. Eastern Standard Time. 12 noon, family. And then we have our second one is at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now, for those of you who may have missed tonight's presentation, we had a guest presenter tonight, Mr. Al Murray. He did a phenomenal job. See, that's the beauty of what we do. All you have to do is get real good at inviting people to go to these respective presentations, and we do the heavy lifting, and you get a chance to cash the check. You see, we're going to show you in just a moment how you can build your business going from event to event. But the beauty of that is this: we have two live events twice a day at 12 noon and at 9 p.m. All you have to do is figure out what works best for you and your business, because you truly can build a global business anywhere on the planet. All you need is a smartphone and a dream. And then every Wednesday night, like clockwork, at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have what's known as the Freedom Call. Now, the Freedom Call is a leadership call. It is not for the faint at heart. The Freedom Call is set up for those of you who are serious about building your business, because traditionally the Freedom Call is always going to be hosted with our very own global ambassador, Dr. Ty Bess. Should something come up that Dr. Bess cannot be on the platform, one of our other incredible leaders always steps up to the plate. And what we've seen in the past is we have two global ambassadors in Wealth Builders Worldwide. There are only 4 in the entire world. 2 of them are members of Wealth Builders Worldwide. Dr. Ty Bess is a global ambassador, and the gentleman directly to his right, Mr. Michael Dalco, is also a global ambassador. Again, family, a global ambassador is someone who's generating $3 million in revenue in a 30-day period of time. And when you see our incredible compensation program, we pay out over 50% of that back to the field. What that's telling you is members of their organization is earning on average somewhere in the neighborhood of $1.5 million in commissions. My question to you is this: how much of that did you get last month? Because you can get as much of it as you choose. We're going to show you how to take advantage of that in just a second. And then every Thursday night, like clockwork, we're here for the tools training. Now, the tools training is where we slow things down and we break it down for you such that prayerfully what you can take away from the tools training is everything you need to build the business the way you want to build that business. Now, I don't want you to take my word for it. Here's the thing I'm going to share with you. I told you this one document will make you a fortune. Right here, the website that I was telling you about, mywbw.net, that is the personal website of Wealth Builders Worldwide. All you need to do is go to that website and register absolutely free. Everything that I'm sharing with you tonight is documented and available to you on that website. They have video trainings of everything platform. They have audio trainings of different speeches that has the MAP. MAP is an acronym for Massive Action Plan. Everything that we're sharing with you, none of it is done by theory. None of it's based on something we read. It's all based on experience. Dr. Bess is quoted as saying, "A man with an experience is never at the mercy of a man with a theory." And I encourage each and every one of you to plug into that particular website. You will thank us later. Now, family, we speak about building your business from event to event, and I'm going to share with you total transparency. That's exactly how I built my business. Now, I started building my business, and it was very much on a Thursday night, like what you're doing today. The only difference was all I did was invite 15 family members to take a look at a presentation. You see, the presentations have been at 9 p.m. for years. And I invited him to a Thursday night presentation at 9 p.m. And at that time, Dr. Dominic Curry did the presentation. Phenomenal presenter, one of the best on the planet. And here's what's interesting. I'm from a small family, and I invited basically well over half of my family to come to a presentation. Now, why did I invite that many people? We always learn that you invite twice as many people as you expect to show up. The reason that we invite you to do that is to let you know that you can invite your family and friends and they will tell you they're going to show up, but they may never show up. And here's the beauty of that, family. When you invite twice as many people as you expect to show up, don't worry about those who didn't show up. Your focus is on those who did. So I invited 15 people. And what happened, if someone could mute, we have a live mic on the mic. If you can mute for me, I'd appreciate it. Thank you. I invited 15 people, 8 showed up. Of the 8 that showed up, these 5 decided that they wanted to get involved with what I was doing. Now, mind you, I invited 15, 8 showed up. Did you notice that I didn't pay attention to the 3 who were not interested? See, I just asked these individuals, did you see an opportunity for yourselves? And each one of them said yes. And all I wanted them to do was send me a copy of their driver's license. And the reason that I did that is because there's this process known as KYC, where you set people up properly where they can have access to the assets that they were going to be blessed with. My family didn't even know what was coming. And to see what I did was this: the compensation program is set up such that anyone that you personally enroll into this particular business, they will pay you 15%. Now, if they paid you 15% one time, that in and of itself would be phenomenal. But they don't stop at just one time. They pay you 15% for life, family. Now, understanding that these 5 family members had no idea what they were in tune for. All I did was ask them to send me their driver's license. Each of them sent me a copy of their driver's license, and I blessed each one of them with assets in the dollar amount that you see here. It's not about the dollar amount, it's about setting my family up for success. Now, here's what happened. The company in turn turned around and blessed me with $1,300. It's not a lot of money, but let me ask you a question. How many part-time jobs do you know of where they will pay you $1,300 in an hour? Now, you can make more or you can make less. We teach you, you want to work smart versus hard. All I did was share information and collect decisions. When I shared information, I asked them to take a look at a presentation. Dr. Curry did a phenomenal job. He was done in 28 minutes. It took me 20 minutes to receive 3 of the driver's license, and it took me another 20 minutes to get the other 2 driver's license. 5 individuals in 1 hour. And here's the thing I want you to understand. Those 5 individuals are still getting paid today for what I blessed them with 20 months ago. Now, why am I sharing that with you? Because there's a very special promotion that's going on right now. Listen carefully. For those of you who missed the opportunity to become a Rising Block Star, our chairman of the board, Mr. Joseph Haidt, has relaunched the ability for everyone to requalify for Rising Block Star, but you only have until July 31st at 5:59 p.m. to make that happen. Now, what are the requirements to be a Rising Block Star? Understanding that in the first hour of me building my business, I sponsored 5 individuals, but you only see 3 here on the page. Well, these were the 3 that gave me their ID the quickest. So when I put these 3 individuals into the business, amazing things happen. Understanding that each time one of these individuals went into the system and you see volume, I was paid 15% on the volume for each of those individuals. We'll get to that in a second. Now, remember, all I was doing was helping my family. And here's the beauty of becoming a Rising Block Star. The company has a requirement. In your first 30 days in the business, you can reach the position of Rising Block Star. And once you become a Rising Block Star, that's an honor that you carry with you for life. And what are the requirements? The first requirement is that you must secure a $33 a month subscription. Well, 20 months ago, it wasn't a monthly subscription, it was an annual subscription. And I secured an annual subscription for myself, and I secured an annual subscription for each one of my family members. So I did my annual subscription, and that's 3 other annual subscriptions. But notice that the income went in as well. The second requirement is you got to generate a minimum of $3,000 in volume. Well, if you add up to $2,500 to $1,800 and to $1,500, that's $5,800. Remember, I get 15% of everything that I do. That's another $1,000 on the table for me. But see, back 20 months ago, it was 18%. But they've enhanced the compensation program. But just what I'm sharing with you, it's more. And the moment that that volume hits the blockchain, you get paid. And here's the other thing, family. Remember, each one of my family members received the annual subscription as a gift from me. And the third requirement to be a Rising Block Star is you have 3 people that have an active subscription. Well, an annual subscription trumps a monthly subscription. But see, here's what happened. We realized that we're doing business in 150 countries across the globe. And in many of those countries, an annual subscription was unattainable for many of the people who wanted to come on board. So what Mr. Joseph Haidt did in his infinite wisdom, he dropped the requirement to a monthly subscription. It's a $33 decision, family. A $33 decision positions you to earn unlimited income. And all I did was place each one of my family members in a position where they can earn unlimited income. Now, let's take a look at the requirements again. First requirement, and then you must do this in your first 30 days. But again, this special promotion has waived this. All you have to do is find 3 new people who want to come on board and generate a minimum of $3,000 in level 1 volume. When you do that, and you do that between now and the end of the month, which is July 31st, which is Sunday at 5:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you receive the position of Rising Block Star. Now, what do you get when you become a Rising Block Star? Well, there were 3 requirements and there's 3 bonuses. The first of the 3 bonuses, you get 1 participation that was called the Block Star Pool. Let me tell you about this pool. The company takes 4% of all of the revenue from across the globe. From all of the phenomenal leaders like Dr. Ty Bess, Ms. Nitsa Nakos, Mr. Michael Dalco, and anyone that you run into, any volume that they generate, 4% of it's going to be split in that pool. And here's what they do. They split it with all the Rising Block Stars, the Block Stars, the Block Star Supremes. Now, when I became a Rising Block Star, that pool paid me, listen carefully, an extra $450. I don't say that to impress you, but to impress upon you, that took place on the very first business day of the following month. The second thing that you receive, you get 1 extra participation for life anytime you get promoted to the positions of Block Star and Block Star Supreme. Now, an extra participation is like an extra share in that pool. It's just more money, family. Every time you get promoted with this company, you just make more money. I love what Dr. Bess says. Don't get hung up on the percentages. It's more. It's more than what you started with. But the thing that I truly love that they do, the third bonus, is this, family. Anyone who you introduce to this incredible opportunity, if you sponsored them and he or she became a Rising Block Star, do you realize you get a 25% matching bonus? Think about that, family. Imagine if the pool was, let's say that the pool was $500 and you're getting 25% of that $500. I mean, it's not a lot of money, but I think you cash that check. We're only talking $125, but think about, what did you have to do for that $125? Absolutely nothing. That's the beauty of what we do. You get rewarded for blessing other people. Now, for those of you who are close, and for those of you who may think you cannot do it, let me say this again. I became a Rising Block Star in 1 hour. And don't think that it's all about Mike Johnson, because trust me, there have been people who became a Rising Block Star in 30 minutes. There's a young man that you're going to learn about. He generated over $40,000 in volume in 2 hours. Not only did he hit Rising Block Star, he hit the next position known as Block Star, then he hit the next position known as Block Star Supreme, because that $40,000 was level 1 volume. You're going to learn about that in a second. What I'm telling you is this: can it be done if it's been done before? Absolutely. Now, here's the thing. Remember those first 3 individuals that sent me their IDs? Well, the company said when you pay your $33 a month subscription, you're positioning yourself to get paid through 9 generations or 9 levels of business partners. Each level is a different group of business partners. Anyone that you personally sponsor is your level 1. Anyone that they sponsor is on your level 2, and so on and so forth. Now, the first person that sent me her ID was my wife. Easy enough. I live with her. I could just grab her ID. She went into the system first. The second person was my brother. Now, notice when my wife came on board, 3 levels of compensation opened up. When I put my brother's information in the system, another 3 levels of compensation opens up. Now, how much do I make? I get 15% of everything my brother, my wife, and anyone else that I personally sponsor does. Anyone that they sponsor, they get the 15%, I get 5%. And then 4% all the way down to 6% on the 9th level. Well, the third person that sent my ID in, her ID was my sister-in-law. My wife's a twin, it's her twin sister. Here's the comical piece. All 3 of those individuals went in less than an hour. So yes, I became a rising block star in less than an hour because I did over $5,800 worth of volume. But here's the thing I want you to understand. I am positioned to get paid through 9 generations. Didn't I tell you earlier that Dr. Bess, as well as Mr. Dalco, have built organizations that's doing over $3 million, 50% of which is paid back out to the field. In other words, family, if you generated $50,000 last month, do you realize someone in your organization, collectively, they earned about $25,000 in commission? My question is, how much of that would you like to get? Because you can get as much as you choose. There's one level that you have total control over. It's called your level 1. We're going to talk about that in just a second. Everything that I'm sharing with you is in your back office. What we do is we slow things down on these trainings and we position it to you so hopefully it starts to make sense. See, repetition is the mother of learning. The more you hear this, the more we go over this, the more crystal clear we pray that it becomes for you and your family. Now, here's the thing I want you to understand. We teach everyone who comes on board in our organization. You begin with the end in mind. What that means is this. Everyone manages their accounts to a number. You manage your paychecks to a number. We manage our businesses to a number. What is your freedom number? Let me explain what a freedom number would be. A freedom number would be something that would free up you from a little stress. Or a freedom number is something that would free you up to where you could take a Friday afternoon off and spend it with your loved ones. Or better yet, a freedom number could be where you could walk away from that job. You could tell them, hey guys, it's been real. I don't want to do this anymore. Now, the one number that you can control is your level 1 volume. Again, level 1 is anyone that you personally bring into the business. Now watch this. If you told me, Mike, my number is $500, can you show me how to make extra $500? Absolutely. How do you make an extra $500? You generate a minimum of $3,000, listen carefully, $400 on your level 1. See, we teach everyone on our team, never let your minimums be your maximums. If you need $3,333, get $3,400. Give yourself a little cushion. It's more. I love that, Dr. Bess. Thank you. More. You'll never get tired of more. So an extra $500, will that help? There are people right now in this country who are experiencing foreclosure. I spent a number of years in the mortgage business, and an extra $500 a month could have prevented 83% of the people who are experiencing foreclosures from losing their homes. So is 500 going to make or break you? I don't know. Will it help? I'm sure it will. But if you notice, I never said what time frame that was. It could be 500 for a month. It could be 500 for a week. It could be 500 for a day. Wait a minute, family. It could be 500 in an hour. I generated in my household over $5,800 in 1 hour. And I'm not saying that to impress anybody. I'm telling you this for a reason. Because you can control it. You can print your own paycheck. So if 500 is not your number, let's say your number was 2,500. When I was in the mortgage business, one of the things, when you see people's financial statements, you learn very quickly, more and more people are working 2 and 3 jobs. 2 and 3 jobs are for 2 and 3 people. They're not for one individual. So if an extra $2,500 allow you to let one of those 2 or 3 jobs, those side jobs that you're doing, go, you don't have to be an Uber driver. You don't have to go work at Walmart. You don't have to go take a moonlight job cutting somebody's grass. No. $2,500, how much do you need to generate? $16,700. Notice I keep rounding up. Never let your minimums be your maximums. You generate an additional $16,700 on your front line, that will pay you $2,500. Again, none of this is theory. I'm speaking from experience. And here's the thing I want you to understand. No time limits on that. As soon as that volume hits the blockchain, you get paid. That's the beauty of what we do. Now, for some of you, you may be sitting there saying, look, 2,500 might work for you, but for me to think about leaving my job, I need at least $7,000 a month. Well, will 7,500 work for you? $7,500, $7,500. All you have to do is generate $50,000. I told you, there's a young man. His name is Supreme X, Brother Fard Marty. He generated $40,000 in 2 hours. Now, I don't know what he did in a 24-hour period, but I'm telling you what he did in 2 hours. $40,000, of which he received 15%. Family, that's $6,000. Watch this. If you divided it by how many hours he worked, he generated $3,000 an hour. So he's telling me that I'm a slacker because I only made $1,300 my first hour. I'm saying this to you for a reason. Because family, you can control how much money you make. Now, let me tell you this. I want you to take a screenshot of this document, and I want you to sit down with your family and just think about what works for you and your family. What is your freedom number? Because we have a product. And once again, you can't spend the money that's in somebody else's pocket, but we have a product, and it's called a Zeus Metaverse Certificate. Do you realize the price of that Metaverse Certificate is $100,000? If you personally sponsor someone who secures a Zeus certificate, do you realize the commission on that certificate is $15,000? And all that is you sharing this incredible opportunity where how he can take a couple $100,000 and put it to work for him, and within 18 months be sitting on roughly about $2.5 million. We'll show you how that works in just a second. What I'm telling you is there's no limit to what you can make in what's known as level 1 volume. Now, I'm going to send a very early congratulations out right now. I have a very good friend that currently is sitting on roughly about $45,000 in frontline volume. His goal is to get to $100,000 before the end of the month. And understand, we normally do the most volume in the last 3 to 4 days of the month. I'm going to say congratulations in advance. You already know who you are. He was recently promoted to a position called executive, and I'm speaking this into existence. Do what you do, my brother. You know who you are. Do what you do. Congratulations in advance. $100,000 in level 1 volume will put $15,000 in that young man's pocket. And that's just one of 9 levels that he gets compensated on. That's what you have in the palm of your hands. Now, this is another quote that I stole from Dr. Bess. He very eloquently stated one night, any man can count the seeds in an apple, but only God can count the apples in a seed. Now, why am I sharing this with you? Every time you sponsor someone into this business, you're planting a seed. Every time you secure another quote unquote asset of the many different assets that we have, you're planting a seed. Now, here's the thing that you cannot sit there and tell me. You can't tell me how many assets are going to come or what type of fruit's going to come from that seed. Only God knows that. You can sponsor 50 people. You don't know which of those 50 individuals is going to hold their hand up and take off like a rocket. But here's the deal. Your job is not to sit there and nurture those 1 or 2 or 50 different people over to the finish line. Your job is to keep planting seeds. Because when the student is ready, I promise you the teacher will appear. Now, why am I talking to you about seed time and harvest? It's real simple. Because we're in a very unique position right now. I'm getting ready to share with you some assets. These assets that you have the ability to secure. I'm quoting Dr. Bess. This is Mike Johnson speaking. This is Dr. Bess. He has never, in his 38 years in this industry, ever seen a product where you can just basically secure that product and not build a team and still become a millionaire. You're getting ready to learn about such a product tonight. Now, when we talk about stacking assets, you can stack as many of these assets as you choose. All of them available in your back office. And you get this state-of-the-art back office absolutely free of charge. Tonight, we're only going to focus on one. We're only going to focus on those metaverse certificates. Why? Because more people are buzzing about these certificates than you can dream possible. And when we talk about the certificates, family, here's the thing I want to share with you. Dr. Best and Mr. Delco put their heads together and they came up with this phenomenal 6-year retirement program. Now, let me explain how that works. You can retire, literally retire in 6 years or less if you can follow simple directions. What is it going to take for you to do that? An investment, or basically an exchange, if you may, of $2,000. $2,000, and you allow that money to compound for you and follow a simple program for 6 years will generate over $1.5 million in earnings for you and your household. Now, you don't have to take my word for it, but here's the thing. See, GS Partners is perfectly positioned. And oh, by the way, please take a screenshot of this, and you want to share this with everyone that you know. Why? Because it's a thought starter. But what we're doing is we're filling this gap. See, there's this crisis in this country. It's called a retirement crisis. More and more people out of 100 individuals age 65 and above. Do you realize only 5 of those individuals can retire and enjoy the lifestyle they always dreamed of? 5 out of 100. My goal tonight is to help you become one of those 5 individuals. I'm showing you a product right now that can get you there. All you have to do is step out on faith. So let's talk about this 6-year plan. How do you figure out what you need to do? First and most important, it's based on these new metaverse certificates, these portfolio certificates that we have. If you haven't logged into your back office, you're doing yourself a disservice, family. Go into your back office. In the center of the dashboard, you're going to see some areas. Scroll down until you get to Lydian World Metaverse Portfolios. Then you simply scroll down to this green button right here, and you click on that green button. When you click on that green button, it's going to bring you to a page that looks very similar to this. These are the 8 new metaverse certificates that we have. All of these certificates, think of it this way. We have 8 unique savings programs. You can call these certificates a savings certificate if you choose. We have them for every household, family, from $250 all the way up to, I told you, we had a $100,000 product. They started $250, go all the way up to $100,000. Now, the program that we're telling you about, this 6 years to a $1.5 million basically earnings for you, it starts with this certificate that's known as the Hermes. And understand that certificate, the cost of the certificate is $1,000 and the cost to fill it's $1,000. We told you $2,000 exchanged, and we can show you how to make magic happen. How do you find out more about this certificate? You simply click on the button right here that says View Details, and this is what you're going to find in your state-of-the-art back office. Now, I told you, it's a $2,000 out-of-pocket investment or out-of-pocket exchange. How is that $2,000 broken down? The price of the certificate's $1,000. The max load for the certificate on the portfolio side is $1,000. Once you fully load that certificate, some magic happens over here. And it specifically tells you, once your certificate is fully loaded, it will receive, or you will receive, the 3 following items. The first thing that you're going to get, listen carefully to this, family. You're going to get a meta certificate rewards paid to you, listen carefully, weekly at 4.15% on the price of the certificate. The price of the certificate was $1,000. 4.15% times $1,000 is $41.50 weekly. Now, Myron talked to you about, Dr. Golden talked to you about getting to a position where you can get as much return on your exchange as possible. Do you realize if you take 4.15% times 4, that's 16%, divide 16% into 72, that tells you every 4.5 months, your money is doubling. If you're getting 16.6% a month, every 4.5 months, your money is doubling. That's what you have in the palm of your hands. And that's available on each and every one of these certificates at the Hermes level and above. Now, here's the other thing that you're going to receive. They tell you right here, you're going to get a 6% monthly, and notice there's an asterisk there. It's an approximate because this is based on the portfolio's activity, a 6% monthly reward. That's an average reward at a low tolerance for risk. You have 3 risk tolerances, low, medium, and high. Again, this is a tools training. That's why I'm slowing down, to explain to you what you have in the palm of your hands. Every one of these certificates has the exact same information. All I'm doing is slowing it down to show you what you get. And the third item that you get on all Hermes and above, you get a bonus, and it specifically says this metaverse certificate is eligible for a bonus once the max load is achieved. What bonus are we talking about? The bonus is $4,500. Now, notice they distribute it in 3 different branches. What we're going to focus on is the meta portfolio bonus. That's $1,100. Let me tell you what they do, family. They take the $1,100 and they match it with the 1,000 that you loaded. So if you add 1,100 with 1,000, that's $2,125 that's going to be compounded for you, listen carefully, at 6% per month. There's 12 months in a year. That's a 72% return on your exchange. Is this beginning to make sense? Now, understanding that every certificate, the bonuses vary accordingly. The higher the certificate, the higher the bonuses. And the question that some of you are probably sitting here thinking, well, how do I even get one of those certificates? You see this green button that says exchange now? You simply click on that button and it brings you to the position where you can purchase a Hermes certificate. Now you have 3 different currencies to purchase it with: Bitcoin, Ethereum, or USDT Tether. Notice USDT Tether is highlighted. That means that person decided to secure a USDT Tether with this particular certificate. You simply click the confirm button. It comes back and it says, congratulations. And it gives you 2 options. You can exchange and get another certificate if you choose, or you can load your certificate. Let's click load. And when you click load, there's another button. Basically, this is a 3-button option more than this. $5 here, $100 there, $10 there, or there's a button here that says max. If you click on the max load for the Hermes certificate, the maximum load amount's $1,000. Let's say you clicked on max and then click load now. It will come back and it's going to tell you you will be depositing $1,000, which is the maximum load amount, into this portfolio. When you click OK, it comes back and it shows you what's just happened. Notice that it says right here that it's fully loaded, 100% load. And it also tells you right in the center of the page, listen carefully, your next reward, which is $41.50, just like I told you. The next reward is 7 days from the day that you fully loaded the certificate. That tells me this person loaded his certificate on the 19th. Why? Because on the 26th of July, he or she was paid. What were they paid? $41.50. Family, it can't get any simpler than this. Now watch this. Once you see that it's fully loaded and you see that this is 100%, notice that 5% went into the mining. I told you they break down that bonuses and they put some in the mining, they put some in the trade, and they put some in the portfolio. So all of it's going to be working on your behalf. Now here's the other thing. Well, what do you get when you fully loaded that certificate? You get $41.50 per week for 18 months. All of our certificates are 18-month smart contracts. What does that mean for you? You're going to receive $41.50 for 78 weeks. If you multiply 78 times 41.50, it generates $32.37. Family, think about that. That's $3,237. And that's just one way you're going to get paid. Just one way. Can you see what's going on here? And don't forget about these $4,500 worth of bonuses that you get. They take this $1,125 and put it in the Meta portfolio account, and that's the one that you get 6% on per month. If you simply follow the program that we're going to show you and you allow that to compound, let me show you the magic that can happen for you. Please take a screenshot of this and notice at the very bottom in bold print, this is for training purposes only. This is not an official document. I do not work for the corporation. I am not a financial advisor, nor am I advising you on your finances. I'm simply sharing some math with you. Now, here's what I want you to focus on. we're just going to start talking about that Hermes certificate. We're making the assumption that you just purchased the Hermes certificate. Now, please take a screenshot of this, and then it's going to change on you just a little bit. But I wanted you to get a screenshot while it's clean. Now, watch this. There's two columns that I want you to focus on. The one that says total out-of-pocket expense and the one that says total rewards. We talked about the Hermes certificate. I broke down all of the details. All of the details that I broke down for you are all in the same line of information here. We're not going to focus on anything but how much that came out of your pocket, $2,000. How much did you put into your certificate and load your certificate? A total of the $2,000. What are you going to receive at the end of 18 months? And mind you, you're getting paid weekly. I want you to focus on this column. You're getting paid weekly and you're getting paid monthly. Compound interest working for you in two unique ways. And understand that the weekly payout is going to generate the 32, 37 that I told you about. But remember, I told you, don't sleep on that 6%. That 6% family is going to generate roughly about an extra $128. It's actually 127.5 to be exact, but the computer always rounds up. Now, here's the thing I want you to focus on. That's another $10,000. If you add the 10 and the 3 family, we're talking $13,000. Now, here's where we ask for some discipline. You just generated $13,000. Took you 18 months to do that. And what are you going to do with that money? You could go have a party if you choose. You could go fly to Las Vegas. You could go do whatever you wanted to do. Or you could do like the rich do and take that money and put it back to work for you. Again, compound interest is in your favor. You just earned $13,000. Why not take 10,000 of that and put it back to work and go get you an Apollo certificate? Total out-of-pocket expense is 10,000. Now, wait a minute. How much came out of your pocket? Only 2. We're still working with the first 2,000. We didn't have to reach into our pocket again. Now we're playing with what I call house money. The $10,000 came from the 13 that you just earned. And oh, by the way, when you let that do what it's going to do for 18 months, it'll generate over $65,000. So what are we going to do at the end of 18 months? Here's what I suggest. Put that $65,000 to work for you. You can go get you a HERA certificate. The HERA certificate family is going to be $60,000. Again, you're not coming out of your pocket. You're using house money. You're taking the $65,000 and putting it to work, understanding that you're going to be earning so much per week and so much per month. We're not focused on that. Total income, when the dust settles, when you fully load that HERA certificate, you're talking about over $400,000. One more thing we need to do. We're going to take that money. If you want to keep a little to play with, so be it, but take the bulk of that, take a minimum of $300,000 and put it to work. Again, how much did you come into your pocket, out of your pocket? We started all this with $2,000, and we let that $2,000 compound and compound and compound on our behalf. Now, when you put that Zeus certificate to work for you, keep in mind, every week, like clockwork, you're going to receive about $4,100 a week. And oh, by the way, every month you're getting access to about $30,000. We're going to let it compound you. You could develop a retirement income of about $1.5 million in 6 years or less. Why do we tell you 1.5? I'm a strong believer in always under promise and over deliver. See, we already knew it was going to be more than $2 million, but we know that some people aren't as disciplined as others. And let's say you play with more money than maybe you should have played with, because you could have taken the entire amount and go back and get more certificates, and now you're truly working compounding. But we wanted to keep it as simple as possible. And all we did was show you how to take the money that you were earning and putting it to work for you. Now, again, this document is for illustration purposes only. We are not financial advisors. We're not advising you on your finances. We're simply independent business owners, very much like yourself, who understands that simplicity is the key to duplication. We just try to keep it as simple as possible. That's why we highlighted those 2 columns for you, so you could see the total out-of-pocket expense and you could see the total rewards. And you can sit there and play with whatever works best for you in your household. If you want to shorten that time frame, start with a larger certificate. because it's just math, family. At the end of the day, it's just math. Now, we strongly believe in you begin with the end in mind, and I don't want you to take my word for it. I do want to say this. These certificates came about because we're in business with a multi-billionaire banker. Our chairman of the board is an extremely successful businessman. And what he has done is he's positioned it so that we can become our own bank. And all you have to do is do two things. One, have a little faith in the company, and two, apply some discipline. Well, actually, three things. And that third and most important thing, educate yourself. Educate yourself about how money works. All we're doing is doing what the banks have been doing for years. Those aren't Mike Johnson's words. Those came directly from Dr. Myron Golden. He said the banks have been taking your money that you place in a checking account, loaning it out, and earning double-digit interest on your money in the form of credit cards. Here, you become your own bank. I just showed you how 4.15% times 4, because there's 4 weeks in every month of the year, 4 times 4.15, family, is 16.6% a month. That's the power of compounding, and put it to work for you. All I'm asking you to do is exercise a little discipline. You'll be surprised when that does take place. Now, at this point, family, I'm going to stop my screen share. I just want to check to see. And yes, we do have some esteemed leaders on the panel. And I always like to start with the man who basically created this whole platform known as Wealth Builders Worldwide. Now, the founder, I spoke to you earlier, his name is Dr. Ty Best. He is a global ambassador. He's been in this industry for over 38 years. Family, he's in the International Networking Hall of Fame. This man is truly a living legend. But more importantly, he has a heart of gold that wants to help you to basically close what he calls that wealth gap. And now we have the tools to do that. Now, he's built organizations well over 100,000 people many times, but he's on the platform tonight, and I would love to hand the mic over to Dr. Ty Best to see if there was anything that I missed, anything that he needs for us to recap or whatever the case may be. Dr. Best, if you're in a position where you can speak, sir, the mic is yours. And he may not be in a position where he can speak. We'll try one more time. Dr. Best, if there's anything that's on your mind, sir, please feel free to unmute your mic. Okay. And I do want to say this, family. I share with you on that one document that I told you, we call it your support card, where that website was there and we told you to go visit mywbw.net. And you have access to all of the information that you'll ever need in life and more. That is basically taken care of by the two incredible Williams that you see on this platform. Mr. Roger Williams, also known as the Big Pill, and his sister, Miss Wandalyn Williams, also known as Sister Pill. Now, family, when I tell you they do an incredible job working behind the scenes to make sure that everything we need is taken care of. But see, they never get the type of recognition or thanks that they truly deserve. So if you would be so kind in the chat, please show some love to Mr. Roger Williams and his sister, Miss Wandalyn Williams, also known as Big Pill and Sister Pill. Please show them the love that they deserve, family, because they do an incredible job of always keeping us on top of the things. And I've always been told that if you're gonna bring somebody forward, always have ladies first. So Miss Wandalyn Williams, if there's anything that I missed that I need to recover, please feel free to unmute, and I'd love to hear from you this morning or this evening if there's anything that I missed.
Good evening, everybody. You didn't miss a thing, and it was phenomenal.
Well, thank you, Miss Williams. And family, Dr. Best has said this before. Many of us have commented on this. If you miss the power calls, because both of the Williams brother and sister team, they both are moderators on those power calls. And Mr. Williams, he tends to fill in the gaps if anyone can't make it for whatever reason. But Miss Wandalyn Williams is showcased on Tuesdays. And all I can tell you is she has been teaching a masterclass for the last 4 Tuesdays in a row. if you're not on the power call, what are you doing? The power call helps to build your belief system. So thank you, Ms. Wandalyn Williams, for all that you do. What you're doing on Tuesdays, you have people all across the globe fired up. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And yes, family, please shout out both the Big Pill and Sister Pill for us, and let them feel the love that I'm sure each and every one of you have for them. And Mr. Williams, I would be remiss if I didn't give you an opportunity to share as well, sir. You don't realize how many people you've helped over the years, Mr. Williams, myself included. There's never been a time I've reached out that you didn't step up to the plate and not only knock the ball out of the park, but your phenomenal support has truly touched me deep in the heart, sir. So if there's anything, Mr. Williams, that you'd like to share with the family, you have the mic, sir.
Mr. Johnson, I just want to say, sharing your heart with the masses of people that are here listening. What a phenomenal delivery. Thank you so very much. I really appreciate you, man. Keep doing what you're doing. Let's change the world. Back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. And for those of you who may be new and not know, Mr. Williams can provide you with business cards. They are phenomenal. The front of the business card will have your information. The back of the business card has the Wealth Builders Worldwide mission statement on it. I'm telling you, to say that it is a professional and a classic card is truly an understatement. They are a phenomenal family. He is also the person that provides our landing pages for us. I'm telling you, between these two, between the Big Pill and Sister Pill, they never miss a beat. They are on top of their game. And all I can tell you is that's one talented family. I will try one more time just to see, because I don't want him to feel that we're trying to ignore it. If Dr. Best, if you're in a position where you can unmute, sir, if there's anything that's on your heart that you'd like to share with the family this evening. Okay. And Ms. Williams, if we were doing a live stream, well,
We are.
I'll go ahead.
We are.
Okay. We may want to stop the live stream. I don't want to get into any copyright infringements or anything of that nature, because one of the things that I always like to close with, family, we all can change. We all tend to grow. We tend to learn from our mistakes. And in order to change, it really all comes down to the person you see every morning when you wake up. It's that man or that woman in the mirror. And I'm old school. I go back to the days when there was this young man who hit the scene, and he truly made an impact on everyone that ever listened to him. So if I can, Mrs. Williams, if we could stop the live stream, because I don't want anybody saying that we don't have copyright ability to share this, and I will share this. And family, we will be back here again next Thursday. Thursdays at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're always here. Also, don't miss the power call tomorrow morning, 10:45 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. You do not want to miss it. All I can tell you is buckle up, family. We